This happened about 3 years ago when I was still in college. I was working part-time at a coffee shop near campus, and my shifts often ran late into the night. Normally, I drove myself home, but that particular evening my car was in the shop for some much-needed repairs. By the time I clocked out, it was close to 1:30 in the morning. The streets were empty, the kind of empty where the street lights buzzed louder than the traffic. I remember standing outside the coffee shop, exhausted, hugging my jacket tighter against the cool night air. I pulled out my phone and ordered an Uber. Within a minute, a notification popped up. My driver's name was Daniel. The app showed a profile picture of a middle-aged man, maybe early 40s, with a faint smile. The kind of smile you see in yearbook photos, forced, not too happy, not too sad. His car was listed as a black Toyota Camry. A few minutes later, I saw headlights turning into the lot. Sure enough, a black Camry pulled up. I glanced at the license plate. It matched. Relieved, I got in.
"Hey," I said softly as I buckled my seatbelt.
The driver gave a small nod, eyes fixed on the road ahead. "Evening," he muttered. His voice was low, almost a whisper, and immediately something about it made me uncomfortable. But I brushed it off. Lots of people are quiet, right? At first, everything seemed fine. We rode out of the lot and headed down the main road. I pulled out my phone to distract myself, scrolling through social media. But within minutes, I noticed something strange. The app's GPS said we were supposed to continue straight on Main Street for several miles before turning. Instead, Daniel suddenly veered left, down a darker, quieter street. I frowned. Maybe it was a shortcut? But then another turn followed, and another. Each road seemed smaller, darker, emptier.
I think you missed a turn," I spoke up, trying to keep my voice calm.
He didn't answer. His hand stayed locked on the wheel, knuckles stiff and pale in the dashboard glow.
"Excuse me?" I tried again, louder this time. "I think we're going the wrong way." Nothing. Not even a flicker of acknowledgement.
That's when I really looked at him. His skin was strange. Not dirty. Not scarred. Just faded, like a photograph left out in the sun too long. His movements were stiff, mechanical, as though he was pretending to know how to drive but didn't really understand how.
My stomach dropped.
I pulled up the Uber app again, hoping maybe it would reroute or at least reassure me that this was legit. But what I saw nearly made me scream.
The app showed, "Driver canceled this trip 10 minutes ago." I froze. My mind raced. If he canceled the trip, why was I still in the car? How was I still being driven somewhere?
Panic surged through me. I grabbed the door handle, ready to bail out onto the empty street. But before I could, the driver slowly turned his head toward me. And that's when I realized his eyes weren't right. They were too dark, like pools of ink, swallowing the light instead of reflecting it. His mouth opened, but the voice that came out wasn't his. It wasn't coming from his lips. It was like the words were crawling around me, echoing inside the car, vibrating through the air itself.
"You shouldn't be here."
The second he spoke, the car jolted violently, not slowing, not pulling over, but just stopping dead in the middle of the street. No screech of brakes.
No gradual hold. 1 second we were moving, the next frozen.
My door lock clicked open by itself and the door swung wide. I didn't think. I didn't look back. I bolted out of that car and ran down the street as fast as my legs would carry me. My heart was pounding so hard I thought I might pass out. When I finally turned back, gasping for breath, the street was empty. The car was gone. Not driving away. Not turning a corner. Just gone. Shaking, I called a friend to come pick me up. When I got home, I reported the incident to Uber, describing everything. The driver's name, the car, the plate.
Their response still chills me to this day.
They told me no driver named Daniel matched that profile. No car with that plate number was registered, and according to their system, no ride had ever been assigned to me that night at all. This story happened about 1.5 years ago, on a Friday night. My best friend and I had gone out downtown for drinks. We didn't party that often, but when we did, we always made sure to play it safe, meaning we never drove after drinking. We always took an Uber home, By the time the bars closed, the streets were buzzing with people calling rides, laughing, stumbling, shouting. We ordered ours, and the app said our driver was a woman named Sarah. Her profile picture showed a friendly-looking woman in her 30s, light brown hair pulled into a bun. Her car was a silver Honda Accord. Within 5 minutes, Sarah pulled up to the curb. We double-checked the plate, then slid into the backseat, relieved we beat the crowd.
"Hey girls, how's your night been?" she asked with a smile.
She had a calm, gentle voice. Immediately, I felt safe. We chatted a little, but before long, my friend leaned against the window, dozing off. I stayed awake, half watching the GPS on my phone. At first, everything was fine, but then Sarah slowed at an intersection and sighed softly. "Sorry about this," she said. "There's construction ahead. I'll need to take a detour." I glanced at the app. It didn't say anything about construction, but I didn't want to be rude. She was a driver. Maybe she knew better. The detour started small, a turn onto a quieter street, then another. Streetlights thinned out. The roads grew darker, and the further we drove, the more uneasy I felt. After about 10 minutes, I finally asked, "Hey, do you know how much longer this detour will be?" Sarah didn't answer. Her eyes were fixed on the road, expressionless now.
"Excuse me?" I said louder. "Nothing."
My stomach tightened. I looked at my phone, but the GPS dot wasn't moving anymore. The app said, "Searching for GPS signal." That's when I realized we weren't on paved streets anymore. At some point, Sarah had turned onto a dirt road surrounded by trees. I nudged my friend awake, whispering, "Something's wrong. I don't know where she's taking us." My friend blinked, groggy, and looked out the window. "Where are we?" she muttered. Before I could answer, the car jerked once, then went completely dead. The engine cut off, the headlights snapped dark, and we were plunged into silence. At first, I thought maybe the car broke down. But when I looked at Sarah, I froze. She was slumped forward, chin against her chest, completely still. Are you okay?" my friend asked, leaning forward to tap her shoulder. The second her hand touched Sarah, her head snapped upright with a sickening crack. Her eyes rolled back until only the white showed, and then in a deep, distorted voice that definitely didn't belong to her, she said, "You were never supposed to get in." The sound wasn't just coming from her mouth. It was vibrating through the car, pressing against my ears. We screamed and bolted. I don't even remember unlocking the doors. They just seemed to open on their own. We ran down that dirt road, tripping over roots and gravel, the cold night air burning our lungs. Behind us, I swore I could hear footsteps, though I never looked back. After what felt like forever, we saw faint light, street lamps, civilization. We didn't stop running until we were standing on a main road, gasping, trembling, trying to flag down anyone. Finally, another Uber driver pulled up. We practically threw ourselves inside, shouting for him to drive, begging him not to ask questions.
When we got back to my friend's apartment, we checked the app history.
There was no record of Sarah. No trip logged. According to Uber, we had never taken a ride that night. To this day, I can't explain what happened. But every time I think about it, I hear that voice again, whispering through the car, "You were never supposed to get in." This happened when I went to visit my older sister in Chicago about 2 years ago. She lived right downtown, close to the river, in one of those high-rise apartments where the elevators take forever. My flight landed late, almost midnight. I was exhausted, dragging my carry-on to the terminal, and I just wanted to get to her place, crash on the couch, and sleep. Normally, she would have picked me up, but she had to work a late shift at the hospital.
So I pulled out my phone and ordered an Uber.
Within a couple minutes, I got a match. My driver's name was Jim, and his profile showed a middle-aged man with short gray hair and a wide smile. He drove a black Chevy Impala. When he pulled up, I checked the license plate. Yep, it matched. I hopped in the back seat, relieved. "Hey there," he greeted me with a cheerful tone. "Welcome to Chicago. Flying in from out of town?" I nodded, smiling despite my exhaustion. He was friendly, cracking jokes, asking about my trip. Honestly, I felt safe. Usually late-night rides make me anxious, but Jim had this warm, easygoing vibe.
As we drove out of the airport, I noticed something strange, though. Every time we passed under a streetlight, the glow filled the car, but Jim's reflection wasn't in the rearview mirror. At first, I thought maybe the angle was off, or maybe the mirror was tilted. But no matter how I looked, there was nothing. Just the empty back seat and the reflection. My stomach twisted, but I forced myself to brush it off. I didn't want to sound crazy. We kept chatting for another 10 minutes until Jim suddenly asked in the same friendly tone, "So, do you believe in ghosts?" The question came out of nowhere. I gave a nervous laugh. I guess so. Why? He smiled slightly, but the way his eyes flicked toward the mirror made my skin crawl. "Some of us," he said softly, "never stop driving." I froze. His tone wasn't joking. It wasn't casual. It was matter of fact. Before I could even respond, something happened that I'll never forget. I blinked, literally blinked, and Jim was gone. The car was still moving, still speeding down the highway at 60 miles per hour, but the driver's seat was empty. I screamed. I scrambled forward, grabbing the steering wheel from the back seat. Somehow, by sheer panic, I managed to guide the car onto the shoulder. My hands were shaking so badly I thought I'd lose control, but the car slowed on its own, coasting to a stop. Hard hammering, I looked around. The seatbelt in the driver's seat was still buckled, the radio still softly playing, but there was no one there. No trace of Jim. I fumbled for my phone with trembling hands, calling my sister, my voice shaking so hard I could barely explain what happened. She and her boyfriend drove out to pick me up. By the time they got there, barely 20 minutes later, the car was gone. Just vanished. No tire tracks, no hazards left on, nothing. When I checked my Uber app later, there was no trip history logged. According to the system, no driver named Jim was ever assigned to me. I still hear his voice sometimes, replaying in my head, calm and eerie, as if he's sitting right beside me in the dark. Some of us never stop driving. This happened about a year ago, after a night out with two of my closest friends. We'd gone clubbing downtown, and since none of us wanted to deal with parking or taxis, we decided to split an Uber ride home. It was late, close to 3 a.m. when we finally requested a ride. The app matched us with a driver named Michael, who drove a dark gray Nissan Altima. His profile showed a plain, serious-looking man in his 40s. Nothing unusual. When the car pulled up, we checked the license plate, then piled in. Because there were three of us, all of us squeezed into the back seat, laughing and shoving each other to fit. Michael nodded in greeting, but didn't say much. His eyes stayed fixed on the road, hands steady on the wheel. At first, that seemed fine. Some drivers are chatty, some aren't. The ride started normally. We were scrolling through our phones, showing each other pictures from the night, whispering inside jokes. But about 10 minutes in, something happened that I'll never forget. My friend on the far left, closest to the door, suddenly stiffened. She nudged me hard with her elbow. I whispered, "What's wrong?" She looked pale, her eyes wide, and in the softest voice, she whispered back, There's someone sitting next to me." I frowned, confused. "What are you talking about? It's just us." But her face said otherwise. She shook her head quickly, lips trembling. "No, someone's here. Right beside me." I thought maybe she was drunk, imagining things. But then I felt it. On my other side, pressed against my leg, there was weight. A pressure. Like another person's knee was pushing into the seat between us. But I could see the empty space. My skin went cold. Before I could say anything, my other friend, the one in the middle, suddenly gasped. Her eyes locked on the space between us, and her voice cracked as she whispered, "Oh my God, I see her." I turned, and that's when I saw it too. Faint, almost transparent, but undeniably real, there was a woman sitting in the middle seat. Long black hair hung over her face, her head tilted down. She wasn't moving, just sitting there. I felt her hair brush against my arm when she leaned forward slightly, and the air around us dropped 10 degrees. We screamed. "I skjutet at Mikael Pullover." "Stop the car!" But he didn't react. He didn't even blink. His eyes stayed locked on the road like he couldn't hear us at all. The woman turned her head slowly, impossibly slowly, until her face was inches from mine.
Her hair shifted, revealing pale skin and hollow, empty eyes.
Then in a whisper so soft it barely sounded like words, she said, "You shouldn't have called tonight."
The car jerked violently, brakes screeching, and came to a dead stop in the middle of the road. Without touching them, the locks clicked open. All three of us bolted, throwing the doors open and sprinting into the night. We didn't look back until we were several blocks away, breathless and crying.
When we finally did, the car was gone. Just gone.
Back at home, still shaking, I opened my Uber app to check the ride. But what I saw made my blood run cold. The driver's profile picture wasn't the man we had seen. It wasn't Michael at all.
Instead, it was a blurry photo of a woman with long black hair covering her face. The same woman who had been sitting in the back seat with us.